This is Mark Goldberg, and you're taking a look at the Rolex reference number 116660, which is the Rolex Deepsea Sea Dweller. And this one from the Rolex website is the Deep Blue or James Cameron Special Edition. Of course, James Cameron, the guy who discovered the Titanic and took his submersible all the way down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. And here is a wrist shot of this same watch, which I'm going to review today. I gotta say, this is absolutely my favorite watch. It does represent some challenges. There are a couple things about it that not everybody is going to like, but I'm extremely fond of this watch. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty about living with it. Really, the first thing that you notice about this watch is the heft. It's significantly heavier than any other Rolex in stainless steel that I've tried or that I've worn. I have some other Rolex watches that I'll eventually review, including a ceramic GMT and an older Explorer 2, Polar Explorer, and some other Rolexes too. But this one is by far my favorite. It's bigger and it's heavier, and I'm a guy who sort of is a little stuck on wrist presence, so I like this watch quite a bit. It's 44 millimeters across, whereas the average Rolex is 40 millimeters. And it has the standard Oyster bracelet. Now, you hear a lot of complaints that the watch is really big and that the bracelet narrows down very small, but I think the Oyster bracelet is perfection in stainless steel. So I don't have a problem with the proportions of the lugs to the width of the stainless steel bracelet. That doesn't present me a problem at all. The crown guards are pretty aggressive. They're blunt, but they come out pretty far. Of course, the crown, it's the standard signed Rolex crown. It's a Triplock. So it's obviously extremely waterproof. This sucker is good down to almost 13,000 feet. So it's extremely waterproof. But let's face it, the average person wearing this watch is never really going to take it much deeper than the bathtub. That's certainly me. You know, in my past, I've done some snorkeling and a little bit of resort diving. But I think really the serious divers these days are probably using dive computers. But this is utterly a thing of beauty, this watch. It's quite thick, much thicker than the average Rolex. I'll put all the technical specs in the comments section. It has the helium release valve that you would expect. I dinged it up pretty good there. I had to actually put a macro lens on this iPhone of mine in order to get a really close-up shot and see, did I gouge it or did I scratch it? And it's just a scratch. This is a tool watch, so it doesn't drive me too crazy that it has a scratch. I don't really focus about those kinds of things. I think the occasional war wound in a watch that is this tall and this large is pretty much inevitable. It's a really difficult watch to photograph because the ceramic is extremely shiny and sort of grayer in natural light rather than deep black. And then you have this blue fading to black dial and a highly domed sapphire crystal. I'm going to put a light on this and see. Now you can really see the blue. It's a brilliant blue, and it fades to black, and that the lettering Deep Sea is in chartreuse, and if you look up James Cameron's submersible, it was that exact color. So that's sort of a nod to him. When this camera calms down now, you'll see that the watch is looming. It has a really brilliant loom in blue, and it lasts a very long time. So it's easy to read in the movies, which is what I mostly like my loom for. And by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I suspect loom fascinates most of us, and I think it's kind of like toys for boys. We just like things that flash and glow in the dark. The bezel is amazing. Really, this is probably the best bezel I own. It has a very fine sound. The sound between clicks is extremely refined. And that's because it's working on a ball bearing system. There's not a clip in there. There's a ball bearing detent. So there's a very positive location for each of these clicks. It's 120 click. There is one oddity about it that took me a minute to get used to, and that is, I've spoken before about OCD and bezels. Boy, does it make us crazy if we don't get that pip or that triangle lined up precisely. And I had the hardest time. Ooh, look, I went one. I went one over. I probably wouldn't sleep tonight. It's a little hard to tell from this camera angle, but oh no, yeah, I'm one over. I think I'm one over. But anyway, this is what I'm bringing to mind. Because there's a distance between this pip and that arrow and the hash mark for the minute. There's that inner ring, original gas escape valve ring lock system. Because of that distance in there caused by that ring, it's a little hard visually to line it up exactly at the 12 o'clock point. So what I have learned to do is to put it exactly to that E in escape, and then it needs to come over one more click past the E. There, it's on the E. There's one click, and now it's perfect. That's a little more work than I'm used to doing to line up a bezel, but with this particular watch, it's necessary. The coining on this is huge, and therefore the grip is quite easy. It's really, really beautiful. I just love that. And I can't stress enough how meaty and substantial this watch feels. Now, of course, this is a chronometer, and it's COSC certified, but I find this particular watch is it exceeds COSC certification standards, and I don't think it loses more than 1 second per day. It's I just use the watch time app, so it's not entirely precise. I'm not using a machine to measure this. It's by eye and using the watch time app for my iPhone. But I have to tell you, this watch is close to dead bang on. Now, the back is a little less plain than your average Rolex. Usually they're very, very plain. This one's got a bit of writing on it, which you can read here. Also, you'll notice that center disc is gray. It's a different color. That's titanium, whereas the rest of the watch is in stainless steel. The ring lock system is devised to enable this watch to withstand incredible pressures. It has the Glidelock clasp, which I really like. Mine's got a couple of little dings on it, just swirlies from desk diving. Doesn't bother me. Eventually, maybe I'll clean it up with one of those 3M green scrubbies. I'll endeavor to open it up one-handed, not so easy. But this is once you have a clasp like this, guys, you're spoiled. You can't hardly go back to anything else. You just pick that up, and now you can see the teeth in there. And what this allows me to do is to slide. Well, this is already in its largest position, but I can actually slide these links in. So I want to add one link to this watch, because when it's pulled open to its most open position, which is where it is right now, it fits me on hot, sweaty days, and but like just by a millimeter. I kind of like my watches just a little bit sloppy anyway, so I want to add one link, and I'll have a bigger range there from sort of like heat swollen up down to like winter, where it's going to be definitely smaller. So close. It has a satisfying little click here. There's a little, see if we can focus on that. There's a little ball bearing there too. Right there. There's a little ball bearing, and that secures that clip. I'm going to clean it up because I probably got it all dirty. There, give you another look at it. So living with this watch, it's easy, it's beautiful, it really shines in the sun. That blue is not always really visible. A lot of times it looks kind of like just the black version of it. but when you get into some real direct sunlight, that blue becomes extremely brilliant, as you see when I lit it up with the flashlight. Okay, so is this watch for everyone? Decidedly it is not. I'm gonna get the glare off it. It is not for everyone, this watch. I have a lot of friends who purchased it and then wound up trading it in and getting rid of it. It's going to wear differently for everybody. I'm really lucky from the perspective of wrist, because what you'll notice is I have a really flat wrist bone. That's really flat. So my wrist is not all that big. It's 7 1/4, but because my wrist is flat, this puppy is not like riding up really high in the air, and I'm not banging it into everything. So a lot of people find it top heavy. That's the biggest complaint about this watch, is that it's top heavy. And when I wear it, I understand why people feel that way. I do. But just due to the configuration of my wrist, it doesn't affect me in a negative way. So this is utterly my favorite watch. I really like kind of tough looking wrist presence sports watches. And in the Rolex line, there is nothing bigger than this watch. I believe the Yachtmaster 2 has the same dimension, but I'm not crazy about that watch. And you won't get anything heavier than this watch until you move into precious metals. This is the Rolex Deep Sea Dweller James Cameron Edition. I'm Mark Goldberg.